Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. I'm Kevin Coop.
And I'm Tom Furphy.
So, Tom, big news yesterday. Amazon got into the pharmacy business in a big way. This is not a pill pack acquisition. This is Pharmacy Prime, baby.
Right. Probably not much of a shocker there to many, I would imagine.
Well, when I read it, I said, I'll bet you this is stuff when you were at Amazon all those years ago. You were probably talking about it then.
Yeah, well, again, it always comes down to Amazon's going to look for ways to help their customers, in as many ways and as many important ways as they can. And they're always also looking to add more benefit to Prime. So pharmacy is it's a total logical place for them to go. Yeah, we talked about it back in the day. We talked about a lot of stuff back in the day, though. And it does make sense that pharmacy took some time. But when you look at the stuff that Amazon's doing across the board, this was very logical. And I think it's just one small step forward in kind of their broader where they're going to go with healthcare and telehealth and everything in general.
Well, and it's fascinating because you've got, they bought PillPack. They've got that coalition or that alliance they have with Berkshire Hathaway and JP Morgan Chase.
Yep.
Which is, I haven't done much with yet, but who knows what's percolating below.
Knows that.
They've tried to do different things just internally in terms of creating new healthcare programs for employees. So they've clearly been focused on this, and God knows if we've learned one thing from the pandemic, right? It's that healthcare is kind of important. And if their goal is to be kind of inextricably interconnected in every part of our lives, clearly this is a place to be.
Well, of families' expenditures, healthcare is, one of the top expenditures. I would say it's a pain point for most folks, right? It's expensive. It's wrought with inefficiency. The deliverers of care, not that there's a bunch of margin around healthcare, because there isn't necessarily, but there's probably a bunch of added cost, probably a bunch of efficiencies that can be brought to the various, healthcare models. So it is ripe for an industry, it's an industry ripe for disruption, and it's an industry ripe for the way that Amazon thinks about the customer and the way that they disrupt.
And it's interesting. So apparently for the moment, it's going to be available in 45 states. There are only 5 states where it's not going to be available: Hawaii, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Minnesota, although it says it wants to get into those places. They say Amazon Pharmacy will accept most kinds of insurance, although apparently you will not be able to get opioids, which is probably a smart thing because that has got a lot of companies into trouble. Right. Health savings accounts and flexible spending accounts can also be used. They're going to keep a lot of data clearly, but they said they're going to be as in accordance with HIPAA regulations. And basically, your doctor's going to be able to send your prescription right to Amazon Pharmacy as opposed to CVS or Walgreens or whoever. What's interesting about the program is because they're working with an outside company. It's Inside RX, right? Inside RX. So you can actually go to existing pharmacies to actually have your prescriptions filled if you're not going to wait to have it. Right. And when you and I were first talking about it, your reaction was, okay, there must be independent pharmacies.
That's what I initially thought.
Except that we find out that it's everybody. It's CVS, it's Walgreens, it's Rite Aid, it's Kroger, it's HEB, it's Walmart.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to walk into those places, conceivably show them a code or a card on your smartphone, which will identify you as a Prime member, and get your prescription from them. They've totally am I wrong? Are they letting the fox into the henhouse?
Well, that is a good question, and I will get to that. Okay. I think it's interesting that they announced both of these programs concurrently, right? Because they are separate, right? There's Amazon Pharmacy, where Amazon is the pharmacy, right? And as an Amazon customer, you don't even have to be a Prime member, I don't think, but everybody is anyway. As an Amazon customer, you can use Amazon as your pharmacy. And particularly when you got on maintenance and things like that, like the 2-day Prime lag is nothing, right? That's totally fine, because that's all super kind of predictable and scheduled out. But concurrently, they announced this, this program with the other pharmacies as a Prime benefit, right? So as a Prime member, I can use Amazon as my pharmacy, or I can use any of these other pharmacies. And yeah, when I first saw the number, I saw 50,000. Like, well, that seems like a lot to just be community pharmacies, but it clearly has to be community pharmacies. But no, these other retailers are saying, come on in, Prime member, and use your benefit here. And I mean, I guess these competitors really, I mean, it'd be hard for them to say no to it, right? I mean, there's somewhere between 80 and 100 million Prime households in the U.S. So that's a big chunk of the market to say, no, you can't use that benefit here. And I'm sure that they're thinking foot traffic, and whatnot to the store is a good thing, and they can sell other stuff too to the customer while they're there. But a little bit of Fox and Hen House, yeah. But I don't know how much choice they really had.
True. I mean, how many of those retailers would willingly, let's say, put Amazon lockers in their lobbies?
Well, not as many.
Not
Maybe not any.
And the other interesting thing to me about it is that, as you and I were sort of drilling down on this a little bit, so they're basically, if you walk into, well, first of all, I wonder, and I have no idea what this number is. What percentage of prescriptions are monthly prescriptions, the kinds of things you get filled all the time, your Lipitor, your that kind of thing, versus prescriptions you need now because I got a problem.
Right.
I'd be interested to know what percentage is what, because when you think about it, the prescriptions you get every month, that's a subscribe and save model in its own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's a subscription model.
Yeah. And if it's going to be maintenance to get every month, I don't want to have to go to the pharmacy every month. I just want it to come home. And mail order, I know, is becoming. I did hear something on CNBC this morning, and I'm not going to get the number right, but you can probably find it and correct it down below. But there's some number like 60 or 70 or 80% of maintenance drugs are done through mail order.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. We're all, even though we get stuff from CVS and a local independent, we're also getting some stuff comes mail order because sometimes they just hook into you and
right.
But the other interesting thing is that if you're using the card program where you can go to any of those 50,000 pharmacies, it said your discounts can be between, I think it said 40% for brand name drugs to 80% for generics, right? So it seems to me you could have a scenario where you could walk into a CVS which owns Aetna, and let's suppose you have health insurance through Aetna. So you could go into the pharmacy to get a prescription filled. You go to CVS, and let's suppose your Aetna policy gets you a 30% discount on whatever that drug happens to be. You could say, well, wait a minute. You could whip out your Amazon Prime thing and get anywhere from 40 to 80%. Amazon is almost de facto getting into the insurance business, although it's not really calling it that.
Yeah, in fact, if you go to the site and you can actually click on and view what the card looks like. And it says this is not insurance, this is a member benefit program. And I know you see the commercials for GoodRx, which is a competitor to,
when it comes to prescription, what the hell's the difference between a member benefit program and insurance?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's some legal reasons they have to state that. The customer just cares what they're paying for it and how easy it is, right? And I know you see the commercials. GoodRx is a competitor of this program, and you see their commercials, and their commercials are showing, an occasion where, customer comes in with insurance and the copay is still $80, but when you use GoodRx, that's $11.23. Now I don't know how often that price is better than insurance or whatnot, but they're using that to market it.
Hey, that's the commercial with Martin Sheen, right, where he walks around the thing going, "Hey, you can get a discount on that." but here's, and it's fascinating. But when you think about it, and you know far more about this than I do, it all connects because conceivably, so I'm a customer, and let's suppose I have a medical condition. And so I am going to Whole Foods to buy foods that will work towards alleviating or at least mitigating that medical condition. So I'm using my Prime to get discounts on that stuff. But then I'm also using my Prime RX card, let's say, to go to a pharmacy or to order directly from Amazon. And they have all that information. I can now talk to my my Alexa show, my Amazon show, and I could actually do telehealth appointments through the system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little scary, but it's fascinating how they've just put all these pieces together.
It is. It's super synergistic. I mean, we know that self-care, there's already a self-care movement, a self-care shift happening, right? Where food and nutrition, um, and other things you can buy, in the store, and services you can engage in the store can help support your overall wellness. This is, clearly a big step for Amazon toward being a solution there. And then, yeah, you look at all the stuff Amazon's doing in healthcare, right? With Amazon Care, their own app that they're using for employees now that they're ultimately going to turn to the consumer. Range of things that Alexa does right now around healthcare and all the HIPAA compliance skills in Alexa that are around that again, the data is all protected under HIPAA. If you develop and launch those skills. Then you look at some of the things they're doing on the AWS side with Comprehend Medical, and the things they're doing with data lakes, and the things you're doing in cancer research, the work they've done with COVID research. I mean, it's pretty awesome, frankly, the range of things that Amazon's doing, and their ability to bring this all, to a complete healthcare solution is pretty clear that it's going somewhere.
So, last question: what is it about the world in which we live that they were apparently able to navigate the spider's web of state regulations dealing with things like pharmacies and medicine?
Yep.
More easily than they've been able to navigate the spider's web of state regulations having to do with liquor.
Right.
They've never they've played with alcohol a little bit, but they've never gone as far as they've gone with this.
No, they've never gone as far. There's a few companies like Drizzly and Minibar, and there are a few folks out there that are working on dealing with the 3-tier system and all that, and it's hairy. Nobody's, but there are others. I mean, people have figured out national distribution for pharmacy, and people have figured out mail order and internet. So not a stretch that Amazon could navigate that. And I think, I think pharmacy is at a $600 billion market. I think they called it. That's bigger than 500 or 600 billion. I assume that's bigger than alcohol, but I don't know, especially now during COVID, maybe not.
It's not. Well, listen. I imagine at some level, there got to be a lot of retailers out there in the pharmacy business who have to be a little bit concerned, if maybe is the best word to use this morning, that a new and a really potent competitor has entered onto the scene.
Well, it's hard to stick to one differentiator forever, right? And pharmacies, independent pharmacies, they've had a lot. They have been differentiated in, the location, the relationship with customers, that familiarity and all that has been a strength. Technology enables us to know a lot more about somebody. The platform like Amazon, a program like Prime that you feel a membership to, that creates a lot of that kind of closeness and familiarity also. So, you can't just sit on those differentiators. You got to keep focusing on the customer. You got to keep pushing the envelope, keep pushing ways to serve that customer. So if I'm one of those operators, I have to keep thinking about behind the counter pharmacy, but I also got to think about front of the counter. What am I going to do, to serve my customers in all those ways that the products in my stores and services in my stores can serve them, and, continuing to improve the programs.
And actually, that's a really good point. And if they weren't thinking about what they were going to do if Amazon got into the pharmacy business last week, last month, and last year, if this is the first time they're dealing with that reality, they're probably in really big trouble.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they also aren't happy with what's happening to their stock prices now. Although hopefully that is just a short-term blip. But I was telling you a story. I got up this morning and I turned on CNBC. I'm here on the West Coast, so we're a little behind everybody else. So it's probably about 5:30 our time locally, and they were cutting to commercial, showing the stock prices of all the big pharmacy retailers and Amazon, and they were going in very different directions. So I didn't hear what they were talking about because they cut right to commercial. But I said, "Oh, Amazon must have announced pharmacy today," and lo and behold, they did.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll keep track of it. This is the Innovation Conversation. I'm Kevin Coop.
And I'm Tom Furphy.
We'll see you next time, everybody.